Welcome to Season 4 of the podcast, Talking Journeys of Belonging to Blackness, with your host, Yndia Wilmot. Thank you for joining us. Today, I am excited to say we are in the presence of Black royalty a la Wakanda forever. We are in conversation with Academy Award-winning costume designer Ruth E. Carter. With over 3 decades of film and TV credits under her belt, Ruth's collection of work celebrates and amplifies the African descendant experience in personhood over several time periods and other worlds. Her mode of visual communication through costume and fashion tells the story of Black identity in all of its diversity, as seen in Spike Lee's School Days, Do the Right Thing, The 5 Heartbeats, Love and Basketball, my personal favorite, 4 Brothers, Shaft, the Tina Turner biopic, What's Love Got to Do with It, Selma, The Butler, Robert Townsend's Meteor Man, Eddie Murphy's Dolomite Is My Name, and Coming to America, just to name a few. Also known for her work on the remake of the miniseries Roots, which she earned an Emmy nomination in 2016, and for films Malcolm X, another personal favorite, and Amistad, for each of which she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Costume Design. Ruth became the first African-American to win the Academy Award for Best Costume Design in 2019 for the epic film Black Panther. That same year, Ruth also won the Career Achievement Award from the Costume Designers Guild. Notwithstanding her trailblazing career with these achievements, including a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Ruth is passionate about mentoring and sponsoring up-and-coming designers of color, continuing to inspire and raise up future award winners. I'm excited to learn more about this woman, the creative mind and talent of one of our generation's top fashion innovators and designers. So welcome, Ruth.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you are an expert storyteller, right? So you use the medium of textiles and fashion to share narratives of culture, race, politics, with a particular attention to nuance, color, and texture to each of the culture-shifting characters we see on both the big and small screens. So what or who inspired you to become a creative, to specifically use costume design as the platform to tell stories, and specifically African descendant stories?
I've always loved the storytelling aspect of Black history. I was raised reading poets and literature like Sonia Sanchez and James Baldwin. I could really see the images that they describe. I grew up in a community that supported Black history, Black literature, Black art. So I was aware of Jacob Lawrence and Romare Bearden. I was in a lot of programs in Springfield, like Uhuru Sasa, that was at Amherst College. My mom, from a young age, she was a single parent of 8. So she would get rid of us in the summer. You're going to this summer camp, you're going to that summer camp. And because she was a single parent, it was all free for us. Uhuru Sasa was a remedial program where you went and you had Black music, Black drama, Black dance. She had all these programs that they were enriching these urban kids with. I graduated from Uhuru Sasa to Upward Bound. They taught you about Black literature, Black history. So I was very grounded in my diaspora. By the time I got to college, I was the girl who went to Hampton and HBCU. It was dark and lovely because I went down south. So my experience in Springfield was as an activist. I knew jazz and I knew all kinds of artists pursuing their art as well, writers. These were the teachers at the Upward Bound program. These were the teachers at the Uhuru Sasa. So I had to adjust when I got to Hampton, but I had one mentor there. I had several mentors, let me not lie, but I had one in particular, Linda Bolton Smith. And she had gone to Vassar, Brandeis. So she had been in my territory, and she was my teacher of Black theater. So we read Sty the Blind Pig, and I was acting in these plays. She was directing and acting, and I was her mentee. And she taught me to journal, hand my journal over so she could examine it and stuff. So that's kind of what molded me, on top of youngest of 8 with 2 brothers that were fine artists. And growing up, my one brother was in the Air Force, but he was a fine artist, oil painter. My other brother that was closer to my age, he was an expert with chalks and pencils and could do portraits, and really the likenesses were astounding. So I had this artistic thing going on in the house where, there was always a pad, there was always a pencil, there was always a chalk that I could steal from them and go in my room and work. As well as in my room, there was my desk. My desk turned out to be a sewing machine. Those consoles that
Yes.
have the big leaflet that opens up and you pull the sewing machine out. When I discovered there was a sewing machine in my room, I was like, oh, let me figure this out. So there were patterns in the little drawer, simplicity pattern. So my mom had put this sewing machine in my room, probably primarily as a desk, so I could do my homework. But I started sewing on that sucker.
Wow.
I never got to be like a phenomenal sewer. Don't get me wrong. I was mainly creating something. Maybe it was like wearable art to me, but I was just really trying to figure out these patterns. Single mom, she's not going out and buying me a whole bunch of fabric. So I'm up in our attic looking through bags of clothes, opening up jeans and making a jean jacket or making a skirt into something else. All of that influenced me.
Yeah.
And that's the life I wanted to lead.
I love the fact that there were a lot of positive influences. You had your household and the fact that there is a lot of creatives there. You cited to your siblings. You were placed in different kinds of programs and had access and opportunity to be exposed to a myriad of different forms of creativity. So what was that moment or that thing for you that prompted you to say, this is what I want to do?
I was auditioning for plays and studying special education. I wanted to learn sign language and do theater for the deaf. Did a little of that in the drama department, and then I changed my major. I decided after 2 years of special education in my junior year that I would change to speech and drama is what the department was called. When I changed over to speech and drama, that's when I met these mentors. And I auditioned for a play and I didn't get a role. But the professor who was directing the play asked me if I would like to do the costumes. And because when I was a kid, I had that room where I could draw and paint and sew, I thought, yeah, I could do that. I actually went to Huntington Library on the campus of Hampton and got a book on costume design just to read, what am I really responsible for doing? When I read it, I thought, oh, okay. And then I remember it had, and they make $50,000 a year. I was like, yes. So once I did that play, even though we had a drama department, there was no one teaching costume design. There had been, but she had left the university. So they gave me the key to this costume shop. And when I went in, the person who left it in great shape. There was a cutting table, and sewing machines, a little bit of stock and material, a little bit of everything. And I said, hey, wow, this was like an advance to my room at home. It was like the next level. And I made that my home the rest of the time I was at Hampton. And I did every play. When the music department did a musical, they have these like theater festivals that go around in universities, and I would do all of those costumes for the theater festival. And then Alpha Phi Alpha, we recreated Thriller. I found that I was having fun and I was also learning something.
And you had a lot of room to be able to play.
Yeah. There was no curriculum for costume design and speech and drama. So I had to sort of figure out, once I changed my major, okay, how do I use all of these classes I've already taken in education as like electives and all of this? What are the requirements? And switch everything over as best I could. then continue on. And I just found myself the costume designer on campus.
That became your identity.
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Appreciate you, appreciate your gifts, and we can't wait to continue to see what's next. Many blessings. The journey isn't over, but this episode is. To catch the latest, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Instagram at journeysb2b_podcast. Thanks for listening.